Welcome to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed.
Where wellness gets a fun twist. I'm Gordy Jenkins, a natural foods entrepreneur, and with me is Dr. Zed DeBout, a resident trained Stanford MD. We are former college swim teammates turned best friends, and now your guide to this crazy world of health trends and fitness hacks with a focus on getting the science right. Get ready for a wild ride. This is Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. All right, and today we are talking about what Wikipedia calls one of the biggest social taboos, bad breath. But we start things off by discussing our new format before going nose first into the rich history and culture of bad breath. Next, Dr. Zed will explore some of the science and studies examining bad breath. We'll share some Listerine history, some bad breath remedies, and we'll wrap up with an attempt at a plan. Also, a special hello to everyone watching on video this week. Going forward, we're going to start prioritizing videos, start creating, editing podcasts with video format as our focus. So if you're used to listening to us only, it might sound a little bit different, but content's going to be the same. So rest assured, just a little bit different in terms of the editing process. Yeah, but before we hold our nose and dive right in this week, Zed, what have you learned while going through health?
Well, slight detour, just leading with curiosity, which is kind of my thing. Did you say Wikipedia?
Wikipedia, that's how I say it.
You say Wikipedia?
I like the long
Wikipedia.
the sound, the Wikipedia.
I like it because it kind of goes with the pedia part to Wikipedia.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like, what about wiki and like tiki, like a tiki torch?
I like that because I've been saying Wicca.
Do you
Wicca,
say tiki?
Yeah. Tiki, tika.
When you go and march with your friends, are you carrying tiki torches?
Tiki torches. All right, good. I just couldn't move on.
No, I appreciate it. I know. I forgot that I said it weird. This podcast is really reminding me that I say 25% of my words wrong. But Zed, what have you learned while going through health this week?
All right. Well, I have a little publication. Well, not a publication. I have a study from JAMA Internal Med, one of the good ones, published in November. So we it all. And it's called Anti-Diabetic Medication and Asthma Attacks. And this one kind of surprised me. So to give a little bit of background, people with asthma, there's some correlation with higher body weight and type 2 diabetes. These conditions can increase the risk of asthma attacks. So the research focus of this paper, they're looking at exploring whether diabetes medications like metformin and others, such as GLP-1 receptor agonists, could reduce asthma attacks. For the study design, the researchers used health records from this UK sample to analyze the data from over 2 million adults with asthma, and they were focusing on those who started using metformin. And then really interesting to me, kind of jumped off the page, which is saying a lot for a medical paper. But no, the primary finding was that metformin was linked to fewer asthma attacks. And this was consistent across different analytical models. Secondary finding that another medication used in diabetes, which we mentioned, is these GLP-1 receptor agonists which can be used for diabetes. They also showed a reduction in asthma attacks. And these effects were not related to changes in blood sugar levels or weight loss.
Whoa.
So, yeah, just
so
to
they're
kind
seeing the asthma benefits without even it's not just because they're way less, so their lungs have less resistance.
Exactly. It doesn't seem to be tied to like these physical markers of like, well, at least these outward physical markers of metabolic health, like weight or like blood sugar. And again, so that sort of the significance here is that these findings suggest that certain diabetes medications, like those aforementioned, they might help in reducing asthma attacks beyond the usual drugs we think about for treating asthma. So this potentially offers this new approach to managing asthma in individuals who also have diabetes.
Wow. So if I have asthma and diabetes this Christmas, I know I can attack it with just one drug. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if Santa gives you diabetes for Christmas, you should be Saint Nick.
Oh, that's a lot of chimney soot. Can't breathe.
Actually, maybe this could be good for Santa Claus because he's a little overweight and he's dealing with a lot of chimney. So maybe this is
he
good for
could
him.
use both.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be if like if pharmaceuticals could really get creative with their ads and they weren't just like stock footage of people running around with puppies in yards, oh man, it could be a fun game. That's all I'm saying.
Doing the Coca-Cola thing with like Christmas and Santa
exactly.
Claus.
Or just have like a thin Santa Claus. Be like, well, if you want to look like me, you know, just talking about his like I couldn't sleep for a while, and Mrs. Claus is like winking at him, like, oh man, love this guy. It's like he's 300 again.
Although I don't know if I feel like there's a European version of Saint Nick that's kind of like thin and cranky, but
Krampus?
I'd be a little put off by a skinny Santa Claus.
No, I would too.
Maybe that's wrong. Yeah,
but I mean, it's a pharmaceutical company. They're not. They're not known for your feelings, bro.
All right. Well, yeah. So that's what I came across going through health this week.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about how like this new format's going to be with our leading with our soap note for this episode?
Let's do it. Yeah. So in medicine, we've talked about this before. Soap notes, SOAP, if you didn't know, that's what soap are. They're the structured way for doctors and nurses sometimes and other healthcare providers to organize information about a patient. So it stands for subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. And the subjective, kind of like the name indicates, it's what the patient shares. It's kind of what they feel or experience. The objective is the measurable stuff, your vitals, your tests, your anything observable. And then the assessment is where the healthcare professional pulls it all together, tries to make sense of the story and the data. And then the plan, pretty self-explanatory, is what happens next, what the plan of action is. Always use the word in the definition. That's what I remember from middle school.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so for us, it'll be an opportunity to discuss sort of this content in a looser, more personal context.
Yeah, no, we thought the structure was perfect inspiration for a new way to organize our episodes. We're going to be kind of loose with it though, so the terms won't always make sense. So chill out. But you know, you get the gist of it. A little structural metaphor there to guide the episodes. And this week's episode is the soap, our deep dive. It lets us spend a little more time building out the big picture. You know, gleaning our key takeaways. So we're not just cramming information into a single episode. And so next week, we'll bring you the rinse and the spin cycle, which is our chance to briefly reinforce what we've learned this week. But also, it's an own standalone episode. We can discuss a little more about any questions people may have from this episode, as well as spinning off into wild stories, tangents, and the odd narratives that we usually like to do on the back half of our episodes, fast fire questions, things like that. But we'll definitely keep evolving this. But we're just excited to give it a go. Gives us more time to research and think about the topics and more time to riff and have some fun while going through health, you know?
Yeah, just wanted to echo that we are the captains now, and so you cannot hold us to any of this.
It's absolutely true.
All right, Gordy, let's kick it off. What is our subjective today?
All right, subjective. Well, our subject today is bad breath. Oh, I killed Sid. Oh no. Before we dive into the history of bad breath, I got to give credit to my source. I read this fascinating piece, as they say often about the Smithsonian Magazine's work, by Brian Handwork. So real quickly, we're going to embark on a 2,000-year journey through history's stinky secrets. Just make myself giggle for no reason. Well, we begin in ancient Rome with the poet Ovid, whose elegy, The Art of Love, serves as a kind of dating manual for the ages. Among his instructions for seduction, so tell me what you think of Ovid's turn-ons and turn-off list. Essentially, this what is his yums and what is it? Icks,
yucks and yums.
Yeah, yucks and yums.
Icks and licks.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
that's
all
Ovid
right
for you.
That's Ovid, not you. You're not saying that.
No.
All right. So what do you think about his turn-ons? He goes, a seductive woman must learn to dance, hide her bodily blemishes, and refrain from laughing if she has a black tooth. But above all, she must not smell foul.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah. So hopefully none of our listeners with a black tooth or black teeth, God forbid, are laughing or listening.
At least you can do everything else with a black tooth. But,
you can pretty much do everything.
But me, just like I look and dance like Brad Pitt, but I smell like Brad's pits. That honestly probably is a deal breaker for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. like dancing, like you're doing like the fishing maneuver where you like reel someone in, but it's like a cartoon like green like breath with like grabbing you. It's like, oh no, I don't want to dance. Yeah. So Ovid apparently wasn't even being like poetic, or he wasn't even just being a mean girl by saying that. He was being practical. In my opinion, because as he said, she whose breath is tainted, he warned, should never speak before eating and should always stand at a distance from her lover's face. Oh.
What about after eating? You know what? Just don't speak.
Yeah.
let's
There's like, is there like a 30-minute window where your black tooth loses its color for 30 minutes? So you're like, oh, you're good. You got that window. You got that. Your tooth got that aura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Ovid is pretty brittle.
Yeah.
He's frank. He's frank. He keeps it real. All right. So let's move from Roman poets to the Egyptians, who were the first to tackle bad breath with some ingenuity. We talked about this a little bit, I think, in the body odor episode, maybe it was. But some 3,000 years ago, they invented what might be the earliest breath mint. And these ancient treats were concoctions of honey boiled with herbs and spices like frankincense, myrrh, and cinnamon. So that's offering a sweet solution. That actually sounds pretty normal. Or like 2 of the 3, was it Jesus's favorite things?
Yeah, these are a few of my favorites. Frankincense.
Yeah, all right, that's what I thought. Frankincense. Dr. Frankincense. Yeah, so other civilizations got creative in their own ways. The Babylonians brushed their teeth with twigs, while ancient Chinese innovators of the 15th century crafted bristle toothbrushes from pig neck hairs, which is one of the best hairs on a pig's body. Yeah.
Top 5 types of neck hairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good for enamel. Even the Talmud, the ancient Jewish religious legal text, weighed in, calling bad breath a major disability, severe enough to allow a wife to divorce her husband. Whoa. Oh.
I imagine the wife just be like, okay, like just come with me, just smell it, and then you can make your decision. And like the rabbi or the religious leadership smelling it for themselves and be like, all right, she's right, we got to codify this into law. Yeah.
Could you imagine how bad this, like, to have a woman being able to divorce a man, like back then in old religious texts like that?
Yeah.
This guy stunk, dude. This guy, every one of his teeth was black. No doubt.
And everyone agreed.
Yeah, everyone's like, dude, that guy's not cool. Yeah, you're free. You're good.
Not
you're
marriage
good.
material.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So, but to combat, to fight this disability, as they put it, the Talmud prescribed oil and water mouth rinses and mastic gum, which is like a resin still used in parts of Greece and Turkey today for its antibacterial properties. I actually had to look this up on Wikipedia a second ago. Mastic is secreted by the resin glands of certain trees, and it dries into pieces of brittle, translucent resin. When it's chewed, the resin softens and becomes a bright white and opaque gum. The flavor is bitter at first, but after some chewing, it releases a refreshing flavor similar to pine and cedar. I kind of want to try that. I like cedar, and I like pines.
I think that sounds nicer as an aroma. I got to come clean here. I have tried it before.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I was looking for a quote unquote natural chewing gum that didn't have natural flavors or other stuff. I just want something pure that tastes like pine and frankincense.
What was it like?
But, it was extremely hard to chew. It's resiny, so it kind of gets right in your teeth. And it did kind of taste like pine, but I found pine to be kind of an unpleasant taste.
I had like gum from rubber trees or something weird like that.
Oh, rubber?
Or some tree. Not rubber, gum trees.
Okay.
It tasted like it. We could have been from a rubber tree though. No, from gum trees. And like it was like really brittle. I don't know if it's similar to that at all. But it just kind of like powderized in my mouth and just, yeah. It was fine.
Kuka Gordy sits in the old gum tree.
The rubber tree, though. All right, let's fast forward back to ancient Rome. Well, sideways forward. or flash sideways to ancient Rome, where our friend of the podcast, Pliny the Elder. Pliny's such a good name. Might name my son Pliny or daughter. Who knows? Pliny. It's short for Plinson.
You could
Pliny
name
the Elder.
both of your kids Pliny and have elder and younger.
Easy, because you keep Pliny the same and you make his middle name the, obviously. All right, great. So yeah, Pliny the Elder, the naturalist and author, offered his own solutions. In his Natural History, he recommended rubbing the teeth with ashes of burnt mouse dung. That is mouse poop, people, mixed with honey to sweeten the breath. And yes, good. So Zed, you're a doctor. What Pliny the Elder had to say. Wait, hold on. I actually have a different question for you. Pliny the Elder he listed two things: one being a good thing for your teeth, and one being a bad thing for your teeth. I'm gonna give you the option to guess which one he said was good and which one he said was bad. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Zed, you're a doctor. What did PTE, Pliny the Elder, say was better for your teeth? A porcupine quill or a vulture's feather? Because there is a very wrong answer and there's a very right answer according to PTE.
Okay, well, this is like 101 pathology, med school, dental care. Porcupine quill is good. Never, ever, ever put a vulture feather anywhere near your mouth.
No, that's right. That's exactly what Pliny the Elder said. He advised picking teeth with a porcupine quill while warning against using a vulture's feather, which he claimed would sour the breath. And like, you can just imagine the trial and error behind these suggestions.
Well, also, like back to the mouse dung thing, you know it's bad when the burnt mouse dung is a step up from your natural breath. Also, like the honey just has to be for flavor, right? To make it palatable. It's not like a smell component or an aroma component.
No, it has to be that. Or maybe even just like a thickener. I don't know. But yeah, I kept trying to like look up the mouse dung thing. I'm like, why? Like, come on, Pliny the Elder, he's been around for a while. He's an old man. He's an elder. How he's got to know these things? Like he's got to have something. Like is it like does there's like ammonia in it? I don't know. I was just trying to like give him some credit, right? Well, this is the answer I found. It just shows how little dental health was understood and how far anecdotal evidence could go. So like some guy he talked to with like really like good breath was just like eating a bunch of like porcupine quills and like rubbing mouth shit all over his teeth.
just definitely just at your bathroom sink, like out of toothpaste and like looking around. What do I got? Spider-Man. Is this mouse poop?
Oh,
and
shit.
a candle.
God, Pliny. My meeting with Pliny's in 30 minutes. What am I going to pitch him?
My tooth is black. Yeah.
Well, bad breath wasn't just a personal problem. It could shape history. So in the Persian epic Shahnameh, the poet Ferdowsi tells of King Darab, whose wife Nahid was sent home to Macedonia due to her intolerable breath. Nahid, get your stinky ass out of here! Unknown to her husband or father, though, Nahid was already pregnant with a son who would grow up to be none other than Albert Einstein. No, Alexander the Great, according to Shahnameh. So in Ferdowsi's telling, Alexander wasn't a foreign invader, but a Persian prince reclaiming his rightful throne. So that's a little historiosity for you there.
And kind of that is interesting about the Albert Einstein thing. And also, maybe the breath thing was genetic, and that was part of the reason he was able to kind of disperse armies. Maybe it was an advantage in battle. Also, kind of maybe a fun way to be sent home if you want to go home to Macedonia or like from school early.
Peace. I'm going back to Macedonia. So yeah, bad breath has long been the enemy of romance, and it's a fact that's been immortalized in literature. Also, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales describes the would-be lover Absalom freshening his breath with cardamom and licorice, only to end up kissing a naked butt instead of his beloved's lips. Yeah, right on the butt, which is I don't know, depending on like your crush and what you're into, that could be fine too for you.
Oh no, I have bad breath again. I'm afraid it's to be only butt kissing for me.
Oh, you have bad breath too. Yeah. Yeah, in a Shakespeare, ever heard of him? Yeah, he was never one to shy away from this body earthy humor, filling his work with barbs about bad breath and Much Ado About Nothing. Benedict, which I thought it was Benedict, and I've read this play, and the fact that it's Benedict, I've like must have gone through this several times in my life. Me being like, oh, Benedict. I thought it was Benedict. But Benedict quips, if her breath was as terrible as her terminations, there was no living near her. And he actually said some verb tenses that were a little different, but I changed it so it's easier for people to understand.
What are terminations?
Terrible is her terminations. Just things she's doing. Just how she ends shit. Just how she ends it.
Fair enough.
Jane Austen wasn't immune to the topic either. In her letter to her sister Cassandra, she once complained about a tiff with neighbors, and she said, "I was civil to them as much as their That's what she said. And they were like, Jane Austen, are you okay? Like, I thought you were a famous writer. What's going on?
Write books. Yeah.
I love your way with words. No,
podcasting is hard.
she goes, I was as civil to them as their bad breath would allow me. So basically, Jane Ostentatious over here saying that she's like, I'm trying to be nice to these neighbors, but they stink so much that I can't even like stand to be cool and cordial with them.
Yeah, we hate Brad breath.
Exactly. Today, science tells us that the culprits behind bad breath, as we're going to get into, are microscopic bacteria living on our tongues and gums, which are feasting on food particles, producing smelly sulfur compounds reminiscent of rotten eggs. Even though I don't really think breath smells like rotten eggs to me, I think it smells more like black tooth. That's like the best way to describe it. And while bacterial bad breath is the most common, it's not the only type. In rare cases, foul breath originates from the stomach or signals metabolic issues, like liver disease. So yeah. But Zed, the battle continues. UCLA researcher Wenyan Shi puts it, bad breath is a constant battle, but he is optimistic about the future. One day, scientists might engineer mouth-friendly bacteria that outcompete the smelly kind. That could be kind of cool. But until that day comes, bad breath remains both a deeply personal issue and a universal one. And love may not be eternal, but bad breath might just be Zed. You're living in it. Good breath, because that's a subjective today, Zed. Will you hit us with the objective? Will you objectify us, Captain Phillips?
from a distance.
Yeah. Well, let me just back up here.
Bad breath, or halitosis, which of course is short for supercalifragilisticexpialitosis. So it's a common condition. Unfortunately, we've all been the victim at some point, and it can really significantly impact like your social interactions, really your quality of life if it gets bad. So here's just trying to provide an overview, again, not comprehensive, but of some of the main underlying causes, some diagnostic approaches, and treatment options. Some of the most common causes, this is pretty intuitive, but not to encroach on my friend the dentist's territory here, but your oral causes. Breath kind of comes from your mouth in a way, and in your mouth are teeth. And teeth are what the dentist works on. Everyone following.
Wow. Yeah. I got you. All right, keep going. Yeah, this is big.
So the majority of halitosis cases originate in the oral cavity. Bacterial accumulation, like you spoke to, on the tongue, your periodontal disease, your poor oral hygiene, your black teeth, and dental caries are the frequent culprits in this case. So these bacteria produce these volatile sulfur compounds, VSCs, which are primarily responsible for that sort of bad smell, that malodor, that rotten egg stench, which you aforetime mentioned. There are non-oral causes as well, which is a little less intuitive, and they're less common. But systemic conditions, like you mentioned, liver disease, they can also lead to halitosis. So in addition, there's respiratory infections. I don't know if you've ever, this is a little bit nasty, but if you've ever had like a really bad upper respiratory infection and you're like coughing and spitting up like phlegm and stuff, that can maybe get a sense for where some smell might be coming from. Gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, that's gastroesophageal reflux disease, metabolic conditions, even including diabetes, as well as certain medications that reduce saliva production can result in bad breath. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So those are the oral causes and the non-oral causes. And then in addition, a couple more here, kind of, which we're all familiar with, resulting from dietary factors. So your garlic, your onions, certain spices, your frankincense, your myrrh, your cinnamon, in different ways can contribute to different flavors of breath, as well as transient bad breath. And then smoking
Is
and alcohol.
transient bad breath, is that just like the PC way of saying like homeless people's bad breath?
I think so. Just dentist terminology.
It's been a long day. My house is being fumigated and I haven't left.
Yeah, probably fumigated. I wonder why. Oh no, there's a. All right, we'll move on. But no, but smoking and alcohol consumption are also notable contributors. In terms of diagnostic tests, so this is one that I was not familiar with at all, but kind of makes me wish I had subspecialized or specialized at all, really. It's called the organoleptic test.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but
no, I just like briefly did, but please tell me that. Seemed yeah.
Yeah, so organoleptic. So this involves the direct smelling of the breath by a trained clinician to assess the presence and severity of halitosis. So you, the patient, just breathing into the clinician's face and then like gagging, like, okay, I think that's a 7 out of 10, but like just exhale one more time so I can be sure.
You're good. You're good. You're good. You might want to see a doctor.
Well, also, what kind of training is involved there? Like, I wonder to be like an organoleptic clinician.
Yeah. What the hell? How do they standardize it? How do they calibrate? How do they calibrate a nose?
Exactly.
Like
That's very subjective.
Oh.
I imagine it's something so similar. Maybe it's for the sommelier dropouts or for like the sommelier
fetishists. The real dirty, the real freaks of the sommelier world.
Yeah, so that's apparently the gold standard is have a expert smell your breath.
Have you ever like heard of that? Like I gotta imagine that's like a very specific thing. Have you ever like heard of anyone actually doing that, or have you done that, or
no?
Did you ever do that?
As far as I know, it exists purely on the internet.
Okay, all right, good. Because I would make me very uncomfortable. But like it's probably good to do. But like, bro, I mean, I might as well just like hold hands with him for the doctor for the entire time. It just seems oddly personal.
Yeah, I think it's something you can dabble in as a friend to your friends.
Yeah. That's like what my wife is for.
Yeah, my wife's an organoleptic.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
But no, so that's the gold standard. And then technology-wise, there's something called a halometer, and this is a portable device that measures the concentration of those VSCs.
Oh, my wife. So I didn't even mean to make that joke, but I was just saying my wife is my wife named Hallie, so a halometer is my.
Exactly.
All right, that worked. Never mind. Thank you.
But no, so yeah, maybe your wife will be able to do this, but provide a quantitative assessment of malodor, so a little less subjective, I guess.
She's born with it, just by the name.
And then this one, appropriately named too, I'm more familiar with it from basic science, but gas chromatography, and yeah, I feel like this comes up in different types of settings, but basically it's a not super, but fairly sophisticated method that can accurately identify and quantify these specific compounds, and it's less commonly used, and I imagine it's kind of expensive, but it's an option.
It's there.
And then there's salivary tests. So we spoke to this a little bit, but these can help identify reasons for reduced saliva flow or other abnormalities that can contribute to halitosis. And for example, there's a beta-galactosidase test, and that is just measuring salivary levels of this enzyme, and that can be correlated with oral malodor.
Wow.
And I also included self-diagnosis, but
yeah, that's the most common one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like lick your hand. Have you ever you heard of that one? Like lick your hand and then breathe on it and smell that.
No, that came up. Yeah. You lick the back of your hand, let it dry, and then smell it.
I remember that one from like middle school, Rick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You want to try to lick with the back of your tongue, though, I think, for optimal.
Is that real?
That's where just
what does that mean?
Logically, because that's where the majority of sometimes the bacterial load can be.
I'll have something. I'll bring it up for our plan later.
Okay.
I'll save it for our plan.
All right. Treatment options, again, not comprehensive, and a lot of these are pretty intuitive and somewhat dental territory, but oral hygiene improvement, your regular brushing, your flossing, everything my hygienist is getting on my ass for, which I do anyway, so it's not a big deal. No black teeth.
No black teeth. But yeah, baby.
Along with tongue cleaning, so those are all kind of fundamental in reducing bacterial load and production of those those sulfurous compounds. But do you remember we had a suite mate? I won't dox him, but I remember watching him like his teeth brushing routine, and I think he would use a washcloth to either grab his tongue and hold it and then scrub it, or there's just something a little different than just like brushing your tongue.
Yeah.
Do you remember that at all?
Oh, no, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he would use a washcloth as a grip and like grab his tongue, pull it out, and then brush it or something.
Give me one hint without saying. Did this teammate have a black tooth?
No, maybe that's probably why.
Well, that narrows it down a little bit.
To everyone.
Do you have any people with black tooths?
Yeah, old black tooth.
Oh yeah, the pirate we had on our team.
Yeah, so those are your basic oral hygiene options. If you want to level up from there, professional dental care, and again, this is more for addressing periodontal disease like cavities, other dental issues, which of course can significantly build that bacterial load and reduce in those oral sources of halitosis. There are like antimicrobial mouthwashes. There's a bunch of different kinds. There's some essential oil-based mouthwashes. And I didn't do a deep dive into these, and I'm assuming there's some potential like nasty things in these that have other issues, and whenever you're messing with like antimicrobial
changing
stuff,
the pH.
You're upsetting potentially like the microbiome. So it's a little more complicated, and most of them are sort of transient fixes or solutions. But
I actually didn't know that. I have chlorhexidine right here. I have chlorhexidine. It's a prescription one though. It's really good. Like if I bite my like injure my gums or something like that, which I tend to for some reason. I talk too much. It helps. It helps like heal it up and stuff. I actually said, since my canker sores, I actually have this too. This is hyaluronic acid. This one's from Italy. It's a good year. Very good vintage ginger gel.
Oh, Italy. Wow.
Yeah. Also have the standard Listerine, just to show off to people who've never seen a bottle of Listerine before.
Wow. Life of a podcaster.
Airbnb life, man. Like I said, I'm living in an Airbnb right now, so these aren't even mine. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. Man, I just have water like an idiot. But it's in a jar.
Yeah. Well, have fun with your perfect mouth.
All right, last couple things here. So your salivary stimulants for patients with dry mouth, this can help increase saliva flow. And you can also use things like chewing gum or the one you mentioned before, mastic gum. That really did get my saliva going, but kind of in a pre-nausea way. And then they also have saliva substitutes, which are kind of wild to think about.
What? Oh, wait. Yeah. What would that do? How do you?
I think it's just for kind of not moisturizing, but sort of giving your mouth liquid to replicate kind of what saliva does for you in terms of what's the word I'm looking for?
Just like a gentle acidic like nature. Do you think you can break down carbohydrates?
No, I don't think it's enzymatic activity. It's more just for the moisture. So it's kind of like the eye drops for dry eyes. Yeah.
All right.
But cool. Don't put eye drops in your mouth.
No, that's true.
Or saliva in your eye. Kind of the two big rules. All right. Last one, diet and lifestyle modifications. So reducing the intake of odor-causing foods and tobacco cessation, for example, can really improve that breath odor. And then treatment of those underlying conditions. So we mentioned halitosis stemming from systemic conditions, and appropriate medical management, of course, is key to addressing that underlying disease and then following the halitosis. So yeah, basically addressing bad breath really can require a comprehensive approach. So identifying like the underlying cause, is it oral like hygiene issue? Is it a more systemic thing?
Right.
And then treating those associated conditions. So
cool. Yeah, that's interesting. I bad breath seems kind of basic, not basic. A lot of things to think about. Got to really have a long talk with my microbiome in my mouth.
Yeah.
See what's going on. See how that chlorhexidine is doing. What's it doing? Do you guys like it?
Is this working for you guys? I'm looking at you, old black tooth.
Well, speaking of that, Zed, let's hear from our sponsors today.
Say goodbye to history's turnoff. Hi, do you have a black tooth? Ovid says it's a dating no-no, but fear not. With Black Tooth Whitener, our patented volcanic mouse-dung formula will bring your smile back to life. Pliny the Elder approved. Because remember, you can't dance seductively with a black tooth.
That's a fact. You heard it from PTE himself. You cannot be dancing seductively, which is one of the things you should be doing. But if you have black tooth, dance your way out of my face. Welcome back, everyone. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and rate us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. New episodes Monday morning at goingthroughhealth.podcast on Instagram. And remember, next week, we're going to be rinsing off this soap talk and telling the story of the Great Stink of London. Basically, this period of time in London where it was just really, really disgustingly stinky. People were miserable because of it. Everyone was sick. Pretty wild. Look forward to telling you guys about that. We'll also hit you with our fast fire questions. So pumped for next week.
Yeah. When was that in London? Yesterday?
1858. All right, man. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it next week.
All right. So we're talking about bad breath. I think it's time we break down our impressions and share some asides as part of our assessment and plan.
All right. Well, Zed, you can't talk about bad breath without mentioning Listerine. Did I already mention that by any chance? Did I already wave a bottle of Listerine around my mouth and kiss it maybe or something? I think I might have.
Listerine. Wait, what's that song? Listerine.
I don't know that song. What song?
I'll look it up. They don't say Listerine, but it's something that rhymes. It's like
Glycerine?
Glycerine. That's what it was.
There it is. All right. Let's take a trip back. Dude, who is that? Fuel or something? I don't know. I'm forgetting. Let's take a trip back to the early Foo Fighters. Who is that?
I'll look it up. You
go. Look it up. All right, cool. Let's take a trip back to the early 20th century, a simpler time when bad breath was just bad breath. Not this whole wide social taboo that we know today. I mean, sure, there's people like Pliny the Elder absolutely roasting you if you had a black tooth and saying, "Get away from my face, woman. I can't be talking to you."
It says it's by Bush.
Bush, that's what it is. Ugh. All right. Ugh. Not a huge fan of that song, to be honest. I don't know why, but at least we know. Enter Gerard Lambert. He's the heir to the Listerine fortune and a man determined to change the societal acceptance of bad breath in the 1900s. I imagine people were walking around with a lot more black tooth in the mouths of people back then. Armed with a product that could do everything from cleaning floors to curing dandruff, Lambert realized his biggest challenge wasn't fixing bad breath. It was convincing people that they had it in the first place. It's like, yo, you all stink.
Marketer's dream.
Exactly. Listerine wasn't exactly a blockbuster product in its early days. I've been drinking Listerine all day. Listerine wasn't exactly a blockbuster product in its early days. It was invented in the 1880s by Dr. Joseph Lawrence and named after Joseph Lister, the father of antiseptic, which I always think there's so many of the fathers of everything. But like, all right, Lister, the father of hello, daddy antiseptics. But its marketing, Listerine's marketing lacked focus. By the 1920s, it had been pitched as a surgical disinfectant, a deodorant, and even a remedy for gonorrhea. And surprisingly, none of these had made it a household name.
Oh, this? Yes, it's actually my 12-in-1 gonorrhea deodorant.
It's not because I have gonorrhea right now, but it does fix it. If I did.
I'm in an Airbnb. It's not even mine.
It's not even mine. You're using someone else's gonorrhea. What? But so that's when Lambert had his eureka moment. I'm going to start a gonorrhea outbreak. Now, while brainstorming with his brother Marion, their company chemist casually mentioned a term he'd come across in one of the oldest medical journals, the British Lancet, halitosis. And it was derived from the Latin halitus, meaning breath, and the Greek suffix osis, just mashing up the Latin and the Greek, which sounds scientific and serious. So like osis sounded legit, and that's all Lambert needed. There, he declared, is something we can hang our hat on. So, all right, and hang his hat he did, all right. Lambert's marketing team launched one of the most fear-inducing campaigns in advertising history with a message that bad breath wasn't just a minor inconvenience, it was a social catastrophe waiting to happen. Ads warned of bridesmaids doomed to spinsterhood, businessmen losing promotions, and mothers ostracized by their own children, all because of halitosis. And one ad proclaimed, even your best friends won't tell you. And another helpfully suggested that bad breath might explain why you're single.
Jeez.
Yeah, a little manipulative, but also kind of true. You know, it's like bad breath is pretty gross. But if everyone has bad breath, is it really bad breath? Is it all relative? it's bad when it's not me. Like I wouldn't want this guy telling me that I stunk, but like I wouldn't mind him telling other people.
and yeah, I know you've just read The Hobbit and haven't read the prequels, but yeah, I think if you do, that's kind of the prequel of how Smaug ended up in the cave, just kind of alone with all that treasure.
Can't listen to this. Can't listen. All right, fair enough. I'm gonna count that as one wizard. It's tangential. I'll give you a half wizard quota on that one.
They said Smaug breath, Smaug breath.
That's what they said. So anyway, this like fear-inducing marketing strategy was ruthlessly effective, not unlike Smaug. As the advertising scholar James B. Twitchell writes, Listerine did not make mouthwash as much as it made halitosis. In just 7 years, sales of Listerine skyrocketed from $115,000 to $8 million annually. And Gerard Lambert became fabulously wealthy, though he later joked that his tombstone might read, "Here lies the father of halitosis." Everyone's like, "Oh, he's so funny. I love when he makes that joke." His tombstone joke.
Just goes all in and names his daughter halitosis.
No. Well, he said, do you think he's a man of his word? Because I checked out his gravestone, and it reads, I quote, Gerard B. Lambert, May 15th, 1886 to February 25th, 1967. So it looks like he chickened out. He didn't put the father of halitosis over. But to be fair, his wife, I saw it because she also shares his tombstone. I don't know if he had that in the plan. I hope someone, he didn't know about that because she died in 1993. So maybe she had some time to reconsider how she wanted to be memorialized for eternity.
So you're saying the father of halitosis tombstone is still up for grabs?
I'm saying is that no one's claimed it yet, to my knowledge.
Now I just gotta die.
That's right.
And arrange for a tombstone.
That's true. But why did this campaign resonate so strongly? Part of it was timing. Germ theory had recently entered public consciousness, and Americans were becoming increasingly obsessed with hygiene. Products like disposable paper cups, Kleenexes, things like that to keep germs at bay were starting to get going, and advertisers weren't afraid to tackle formerly taboo topics like acne. Oh my God, so taboo. Or athlete's foot. We were talking before this. I'm having a freaking little bit of a mouth tape to follow up from last episode. I'm having a little bit of a mouth tape pimple thing going on. I think I'm getting a little bit of like some skin irritation from the mouth tape. You ever had that, or do you have to like switch around the kinds at all, or have you just been perfect your whole life?
I'd prefer not to talk about taboo topics.
Oh, fair enough. I was about to. Oh, your athlete's foot. Oh, never mind.
No.
Sorry.
I actually have athlete's foot on my mouth right now, and has been an issue.
All right. Well, we'll keep moving before you put your athlete's foot in your mouth anymore. So, yeah. Well, Listerine didn't cure halitosis, of course, any more than a spritz of Febreze cures the smell of a fraternity basement. Listerine masked the symptoms and temporarily reduced bacteria, but the root causes, usually that sulfur-producing bacteria in the mouth, remained. So scientists now know that these bacteria feast on leftover food particles, post-nasal drip, yum, 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 and even your own oral tissues, producing compounds that smell like black tooth. Lovely, right? So I don't know. Mouth tapes kind of sounds good when you read all this. All the drying out the mouth stuff. Don't you kind of think like mouth tapes like keep? I mean, at least you're keeping your mouth shut. At the very least, like Pliny the Elder, I could walk right up to him. Say something.
And also, if you're mouth taping while doing seductive dances, you really kind of boost in your cardiorespiratory fitness and avoided any breath issues.
Pliny,
what could be better?
So smart. Or no, that's Ovid.
Ovid, you dancing dog.
Ovid. We're gonna name it as a pandemic close to you one day.
In honor
of you. Still, Gerard Lambert's genius wasn't in solving bad breath. As we mentioned, it was selling the fear of it. He took an everyday annoyance and turned it into a national crisis, all the while offering a cure in a conveniently labeled bottle. It's a masterclass in marketing, and just a reminder of how easily our insecurities can be exploited. Isn't that right, Baldy?
Man, how good is it to have a really gross problem that your product only fixes for a little bit?
Right? Oh, I know. It's built in. You got to get more of it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Listerine.
Bush League. Bush. That's Bush. That's Bush League right there. So what are some things you found most interesting or compelling?
Yeah, so I have a couple of studies that I thought were interesting. This first is called "Characteristics of 2,000 Patients Who Visited a Halitosis Clinic." So yeah,
They were short and tall, and some wore glasses.
But man, I didn't know halitosis clinics were a thing. But this is from the Journal of Clinical Periodontology, 2009. But so the objective of this analysis was to look at the causes and characteristics of bad breath in these 2,000 patients at a multidisciplinary bad breath clinic in Leuven, Belgium.
Oh, it's your people.
Yeah, so for some reason they had a ton of halitosis people around, and all that chocolate and waffles. It's a sulfur. All right, I'm not gonna speak bad about Belgium.
Sounds delightful.
So those kind of see how those things correlate with organoleptic ratings as well as with halimeter measurements.
Yeah.
But yeah, so methods wise, they use this standard questionnaire as well as this clinical examination, that organoleptic assessment, and they included these organoleptic scores by a trained judge, as well as these halimeter readings to assess the patients. So,
do you think the trained judge likes this? Like, do you think there's any like secondary gains to this? Like, is he like, I am kind of into this, or is he just like the sad dude that I'll do it?
I can't imagine you go through the training and work full time on this and like are disgusted and feel like throwing up every day. I know, right?
You're like, why did I choose this?
Yeah. I was also thinking maybe it's just someone who has a really poor sense of smell, but then also what use would
defeats
you
the
be?
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to be a sensitive smeller, but you also have to smell bad breath.
Yeah, and if you're a sensitive soul, it's even better because then you can deliver the news
In a polite way.
Good bedside manner.
Just like, well,
Not that
I'm sure you're wondering about your results. All right, I'm sure you can't wait to hear the findings of these 2,000 bad breath Belgians. But actually, I don't know that they were Belgians. They could have been U.S. Medical tourists. All right, so they found that most patients self-referred and had long-standing complaints, average duration of 7 years. I think these were their own complaints, not long-standing complaints from other people, although it's possible too. So oral causes, a little bit intuitive, were identified in 76% of cases, primarily due to tongue coating, 43%, and gingivitis/periodontitis, 11%, or a combination of both, 18%. So yeah, majority oral causes from one of those or two of those three things. And then pseudohalitosis or halitophobia was diagnosed in 16% of patients.
What's that?
So my understanding is it's just they believe they have it even though they don't. So they're kind of convinced that they have bad breath or have this phobia of themselves having bad breath, and so present because they're worried about it. But actually 16% of patients were found to, I think their breath was fine, but they thought they had bad breath.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna touch on that in the plan because I thought that was interesting too. I was reading through and like learned about like delusional halitosis is one thing I called it, or I saw it called. One thing I called it, and that's what you should call it.
Yeah, interestingly, did not exist before all the Listerine marketing. So
good
tough
job.
to say what's happening there. No, I don't know when it started. But yeah, so and then ear, nose, and throat or extra oral causes were identified in 4% of patients. So not very many, but still a percentage. And then most patients had low organoleptic scores, less than 3, and halimeter values less than 240 parts per billion. So I honestly didn't look up what's behind organoleptic scores and whether a low number is better. I think it's probably better, but yeah, that could be its own episode.
But it's not on a normalized curve, at least. It's not on a bell curve, probably. One of the extremes is you're gonna be shooting for.
Right. But yeah, so that judge was at work. But yeah, so just to wrap that up, basically halitosis, as we know, predominantly originates from oral issues, but they recommend a multidisciplinary approach to diagnosing because there can be these ENT causes, these extra oral causes, as well as this pseudohalitosis or halitophobia.
All right, fair enough.
All right, other thing that I thought was interesting, this other study is called or it is a comprehensive review of the application of probiotics and postbiotics in oral health. And this is from a journal, Frontiers in Cellular and Infection Microbiology, from March of 2023. But basically, kind of reviewing, there's these current treatments, and they primarily focus on reducing pathogenic bacteria using antimicrobial treatments. And so, yes, like we talked about with Listerine and others, they can temporarily alleviate this bad breath, but they can disrupt the normal oral microbiome. So they're looking at these probiotics as treatment, and they found that there's some associations where probiotics may help maintain oral health by supporting this sort of healthy milieu, this microbial balance, particularly in hard to reach areas like the tongue. So a couple they called out S. salivarius K12 reported to be showing promise in reducing volatile sulfur compounds.
Salivarius Snape, is that right? Salivarius Snape?
Don't even joke about that.
Sorry,
it's not.
There you go. I took away half of your wizard quota because I said it. So now you have a full wizard reference to go. So
Avada Kedavra!
All right, there it goes. Now we're even. Now no more.
All right, so that was found to reduce these compounds and maintain lower levels of bad breath. There's also some other strains. So this also, not S. salivarius, but L. salivarius, WB21, and L. reuteri in chewing gum have shown positive effects in reducing breath. So it sounds like they're making some chewing gums that have these probiotics to kind of change or alter the microbiome in your mouth and change your breath.
Cool.
Haven't seen the marketing on those, but I can only imagine they can borrow a lot from Listerine. And if they have longer term effects, that would be interesting.
Really go for your feelings.
So their overall recommendations were basically, like in a lot of these studies, that you need more studies to explore the potential of these probiotics, especially those used in commercial foods, in managing halitosis effectively. So getting probiotics in your breakfast cereal so you ain't got that stanky breath.
Makes sense to me.
And then I wanted to just do a really quick review, because I always think it's funny looking at these, or interesting looking at these random sort of anecdotal or pseudoscience or cultural techniques that maybe don't have a lot of evidence tied to them, but people have used throughout like history or even just modern time. And
I love that stuff.
Just because they're kind of bizarre. But
for sure,
parsley, so that's believed to have natural deodorizing properties due to its high chlorophyll content. And I don't know, it's probably worse things than chewing on parsley.
Yeah. Is it the chlorophyll that you would think, or is it like the flavonoids, or the terpenes, or whatever is giving it the flavor? It's interesting.
All
right.
So chlorophyll is just thrown out there, but intuitively, I don't know if that makes a ton of sense to me. Yeah. But also, you can get chlorophyll in a ton of different plants.
Yeah, I was like, is it especially chlorophyllic?
Yeah. But there's drinking green tea, like you mentioned, the polyphenols in green tea are thought to maybe help neutralize sulfur compounds.
I did. Oh, cool.
I thought you said polyphenols, didn't you?
Yeah, no.
Oh.
No, I kind of did. Maybe I did. Just keep going, listeners. You guys know I didn't. Keep going.
All right, then there's this gross thing, oil pulling. So maybe it's not gross. I don't know. I'm not trying to do it.
Let me be the judge. What's oil pulling? I'll be the judge.
Swishing oils like coconut or sesame oil in the mouth for several minutes is an ancient Ayurvedic practice believed to reduce bacteria and improve oral hygiene.
That's not very gross at all compared to some stuff they probably did back then.
That's true.
We were talking about rubbing mouse-dung on your rotten teeth.
That's true. But it's burned though. That's just
it's charcoal. It's charcoal.
All right, so I'll go a little more rapid fire through these. Chewing fennel seeds, of course. Apple cider vinegar. What can't it do? Eating yogurt seems a little easier. But again, the logic there being these live cultures can affect the microbiome, these hydrogen sulfide producing bacteria, etc. Baking soda mouth rinse. Chewing on cloves or cardamom. Is that the Pliny the Elder move? Who was that again?
Yeah. No, that was that was Absalon,
Ovid.
I think.
Oh,
Ovid. A lot of people back then chewed cardamom, and I still think people do chew cardamom. I think that I've seen that before. I don't want to speculate incorrectly, but I've seen on TV shows people chewing from some South Asian countries still chewing on cardamom. But again, I don't know enough about it to like.
Don't let that stop you.
All the Indians listening, email me. Am I right?
All right, we're gonna move along here. But now drinking pineapple juice. So anecdotal reports about pineapple juice helping reduce bad breath because of its enzyme content. That what's that enzyme? Oh yeah, bromelain or whatever. Bromelain.
That's my nightmare. That's why I have all those mouthwashes, because it just
Dissolving you
dissolves
from
my
the inside.
cheeks. Yeah.
And then activated charcoal, so your burnt mouse dung, or basically in my mind, it's kind of the same thing. And then hydrogen peroxide rinse. So again, something to just kill those bacteria and whiten the teeth. Although I don't know that I would be swishing with H2O2.
Well, there could be other things on that list that I would choose the H2O2 first over. I remember what I was thinking. I was watching. It was a Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay, an Indian restaurant in the UK, and the Indian family who was running it from India, and the server was chewing cardamom, but he thought she was chewing gum. So he like Gordon Ramsay freaked out on her and stuff. But she was like, "Oh no, I'm chewing cardamom," and he's like, "Oh, I didn't realize that. I guess that's like a really common thing." And I don't know. He kind of was like, "Oh, my bad. I guess that's cultural." Kind of like me saying this.
Did they think it wasn't a good presentation, sort of front of house presentation, to be chewing on gum?
Right, chewing on gum when you're like the waitress.
Did he say anything about her breath?
No, yeah, I think he said it smelled like cardamom.
All right, but yeah,
cardamom.
I'm getting a real strong cardamom. But no, so those are a couple of things that I thought popped out to me and were interesting.
Oh, those are cool. But Zed, now it's time to talk plan. And this is what I'm thinking. And this is kind of just a little bit of a synthesis of this episode. First off, is this topic a big deal to you? Just like curious. Like, do you like worry about your breath, or think? I mean, just normally.
Oh yeah, pretty constantly. I find it. No, but seriously, it's my wife's number one ick is bad breath. So I think the first 3 years of dating her, I didn't stop chewing gum. Wish I had cardamom in my repertoire. But yeah, so it is something I think about pretty often. I try to practice, and not just because my hygienist is on my case, but I do try to
old Huckleberry
crazy about flossing and brushing. And yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. And we in the body odor episode, I really talked about my confidence with the way my body smells. I feel like I have a lot more like insight into how my body smells, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is like there's people listening just like, oh my god, he's never gonna stop stinking, he doesn't know. But I think I worried more about smell blindness with my mouth than my like I feel like I can smell my armpit and like know if there's something there, but like the breath, like a regular, it's just, I don't know, it makes you a little nervous. You don't want to be that guy,
Yeah, I find that I'm way more self-conscious about my own, whereas if I smell it out and about from someone else, I don't know, I'm not Ovid style, or I'm not sending my wife back to Macedonia, because I don't know, I feel like I don't know, I try to empathize. I'm like, I'm sure, I don't know, because it's so scarring to have someone call you out on it. Or
I agree. It makes me think like, if I was smelling someone else's breath, I'd probably be like, I have no idea if my breath smells or not right now. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm like water flossing. I was gonna say, like, as part of my plan, just to keep water floss. I've really liked that, and I started that. You did the old style floss, but having the water pick, I like that. Do you have one of those?
No, my understanding is just kind of like a pressure washer.
Yeah, shoots it through these big boys.
What do you like better about it?
It's quick and it doesn't irritate the gums as much. You're not like sawing into your gums.
Is water spraying everywhere, or is it pretty?
No,
clean?
you can keep. I mean, first time I like messed it up and like sprayed it in my eye and everywhere, and like hit my cats with it. But then it's one of those things that once you realize it, anyone can do it.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah, it's good. I think I chose this topic because this is our first video, and you can see that it's dark. Like, we're on a weird time schedule this month. I'm staying in an Airbnb, like we mentioned. My place is fumigated. It's dark here. It's light there. Everything's a little wonky this week. Our cameras aren't working. my camera's not working, and Zed's out of solidarity using a crappy camera.
This is as good as it gets, people.
Yeah, it was good to choose a topic that was a little more like everybody could understand and like relate to, because I do think there's something like truly scary about being the person that stinks.
Quick follow-up water pick question. Is that something that you can have a communal one because you're not really touching your mouth, or you can?
There's two different. There's little like the little nozzle is replaceable. So like my wife has a nozzle and I have a nozzle. It's 2024, Zed.
Right.
Do you think you're gonna start doing anything? Did you learn anything this episode that? Well, I think, like for example, one thing I thought was interesting was that study that you had about, that 76% of the smell like being originating from the tongue or something. So
Yeah.
the tongue seems like it's really the culprit.
Yeah, sort of the oral thing. I think for me, especially the back of the tongue seemed like a problem zone. Well, it probably is for me, but I'm saying from the literature, that's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
And so in terms of high yield, I know. So that's why I want to try our former colleagues' practice of trying to get more like hold on to the washcloth. But I don't know, because like I gag super easily when I'm brushing my tongue. So looking forward to that being even more uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, no, it's nice.
Maybe I could use a water pick on the back of my tongue. Could that work? Do you think?
That would probably hurt and make you gag and like cut your. I don't know. It'd be messed up.
Choke.
Yeah, I had to use warm water though. It's just worms to the wise. Worms to the wise. Another thing that I found that jumped out at me, and I'm gonna throw it into and say it's part of my plan, was not only the term blacktooth but frankincense. Like I really never like it's like frank incense. Like the word incense is in there. I don't know why that's never like clicked in my brain that it's literally just like frank incense. Like it's frank. Like it's just like it is what it is.
No, this is gonna blow your mind, but I noticed that for the very first time today as well. So
Really?
it really clicked into place.
I was like, oh, it's not like Frankenstein. It's
Yeah.
Frank incense, not Franken. Like with an ending, like
Yeah.
Frankenbaum, Frankenstein. No, it's frankincense. Yeah. Well, God, that we could share in that because that was surprising.
All of our listeners falling backwards out of their chairs.
For sure. Oh yeah, this is the other thing that I thought of. You know, like Freaky Friday and shows like that where you like switch bodies with someone. Like, what if we like freaking lightning hit me right now in the podcast, and because of it, it jolted through the microphone, and we switch bodies, and I'm like you and you're me, but you like look like me, I look like you, I'm in your body. You know what I really hate? I was thinking this when I was going to sleep last night. Is like just like feeling my tongue in my mouth, like just like the idea of just being like, oh, that's Zed's tongue, and like I would just be like this the whole time.
Oh, just your tongue
Just
hanging
like,
out.
I don't want it to touch me. Yeah, you ever thought of that? You ever thought how like, you know, just
have someone
something to
else's
think
tongue
about.
in your mouth.
No, but it is your own. I don't know. Something else I learned, just a little teaser, I guess, for next week, is that Stygian means related to the river Styx. So like, well, that'll get into it. We'll get into that next week with the River Thames a little bit, and I look forward to that. We should also maybe get a halometer. I looked those up. They're you want to guess how much a halometer is? The new one?
Let's see. On Amazon, I'm guessing $16.99.
$5,000.
In the ballpark. Actually, 5,000.
Yeah, man. Look up halometer, and I mean, how many times are you going to use it? What if you're just good, and then you're just like, why did I buy this? Like, what am I going to do with this?
What about the
They have like
gas
little breathalyzers
chromatography
that are
one?
like really cheap. They have like cheap ones on Amazon. They're like $40, but I don't know how well they work or anything like that.
Yeah, I think I'll just rely on my halometer wife.
There we go. I think that's a good strategy. Well, that was our plan, and you all should plan to tune in next Monday when we rinse off this bad breath soap with the big three bangers, and we'll explore the great stink of London, as I mentioned earlier, and we'll cover some health news, do some fast-fire questions, and it's going to be a great time.
Well, yeah, just quickly following up on that, you can get a refurbished gas chromatography machine for $13,000 to $14,000. So that's another option.
Now that's healthy.
Wow, that is a healthy price. That is a healthy price. Hey, thanks everyone for watching and listening to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. Watch and listen each week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. New episodes available early Monday morning. It is the middle of the night here now. Follow us and rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please give us 5 stars, wherever the most is on YouTube. Really give us a follow on YouTube. Give us some likes on that one if you only have time for one of the 3. At goingthroughhealth.podcast. Podcast on Instagram. Give us a follow. Any questions, concerns, listener mail, anything you want addressed for the next episode, email us at gordyandz@gmail.com. And excited to get back at it next week with you with the great stink of London, Zed.
Excited as well. I don't know why that took me so long to get them out. But also want to say, your breath smells great from here. Hey, this is Zed. This podcast is intended solely for general informational purposes and does not represent the provision of medical advice or the practice of any professional healthcare services. No clinician-patient relationship is formed. Nice try. And the use of the information provided or materials linked is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not meant to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should seek medical advice for any health issues they may have and should consult their healthcare providers for any such concerns.